Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Columbia County. I hope you're having a good one because I am so excited to be back. In today's episode, we're going to be dealing with some complaints from our commercial buildings. Apparently, it is too expensive to import beverages, so we're going to have to figure out how to make them with some new industrial zoning. Once that's out of the way, we're going to be moving to start filling in some of the spaces in Blackwater that have been left a little bit unloved. We're going to be building a new housing development. We are going to be building a new police headquarters. And then finally, we're going to be expanding one of our existing suburbs and adding a little bit more death care to Blackwater as well, because it turns out death waves still very much a thing in Cities Skylines 2. So, with all of that out of the way, with everything said and done, let's get to it. So this was a little bit unexpected, but we have some problems in and around Blackwater. Specifically, we have high resource costs in the beverage industry. This company is complaining about it. 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 And you'll notice they all sell beverages. That's a problem, because if we look into beverage production, we need vegetables or we need grain. And as we know, we are growing both of those things. We are creating both of those things. We're just not processing them into beverages because we haven't expanded our industry in the longest time. So all of our existing industries are turning metal ore into metals, they are turning minerals and crude oil into chemicals, they are creating electronics, they are making paper, they are making plastics, but they are not, as we know, making any beverages. So that's something we're going to need to look at today and figure out. But before we do that, just talking about the farms, this district has been renamed to Valentine, thanks to a suggestion in the comments of the last episode that basically said, hey, you've called the town Blackwater after Red Dead Redemption 2. The district down here might as well be called Valentine. And I agree. I thought that was a fantastic idea. And so I went one further and renamed these two spaces to Strawberry and Rhodes after other towns in Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, I did see one comment, and I want to mention this very quickly. This comment suggested that we rename the district to New Bryan after Little Bryan, the town that I built in the Linden series to show off the UK region pack. The reason I didn't do that is because I think I might have something better in store for a town called Bryan in the not too distant future as a part of this series. It's going to involve trains, it's going to be separate from Blackwater, and I'm super excited to get to it, but we have to make a lot more money before we can do what I want to do with the town of Bryan. And so let's start figuring that out. Let's go in here and start taking out some of this little surface that we have going on near our industry, because I need a lot of this space for new industry. We need to encourage a beverage production industry to move into Blackwater. And I think the way I'm going to try and do this is, well, we're going to be zoning more industry out here. We're going to be expanding Anchor Junction just a teeny tiny little bit. I'm not going to go too crazy making this particularly fancy. I don't think it needs to be anything super fancy for this particular industry, but we can certainly, I don't know, go something like this. We might want to put some retaining walls on these little bits of road just so I can stop any zoning from getting weird there. And what I'd like to do as well is maybe bring a little something out to about here so we can have zoning in there. And honestly, this is probably fine. I am considering running a road straight through here and connecting it over to the little regional road. And I don't think that's going to be the worst thing in the world to do. As long as we don't connect to this regional road, we should be fine to make this happen. So let me get my guidelines and let me do a little something there. And I think that'll be all right. I think we can make that work. This might get a little bit busy, so we might want to look into some asymmetrical roads here just to make life a little bit easier. Although I'm realizing that I've done these asymmetrical roads here a little bit differently. So let me just go in here, change you to this type of road, and honestly, we might be fine. We might be okay. I don't know that we're actually going to need asymmetry for this space. I guess we'll get it just because we can and just because we are potentially pushing more vehicles into this space. But for the most part, having this new space it's just step one of dealing with a bigger problem. Step number 2 is going to be going into taxation, going to industry, and I want to reduce the taxes on the beverage industry, which is currently giving us nothing because it doesn't exist. I want to reduce the taxes to 9%. I might even go so far as 8%, just to sort of encourage them and be like, hey, we're good. We want your business. We want you in here. We want this industry to exist. Let's make it happen. That's what we're saying to the beverage industry right now. I'm also going to move this surface back just a little bit further because I think it might be a good idea to give myself just a little bit more space here. And I want to just push this road back a teeny tiny little bit further as well. I'm just going to go for a little bit of asymmetry here with these guys because I want to bring the farm back down into this space, kind of similar to what we did in the suburb in the last episode. And I guess with this in place, we can just go ahead and start zoning our industry, which I'm going to sort of stick to roughly this size for all of it since we kind of stuck to slightly smaller buildings down this way. Although, yeah, you're a bit smaller. You're just blocked by that, which is fine. On this side, we'll go for something a little bit bigger. I think we'll just fill out the space completely since we kind of have that space available. I think we'll fill up this space completely. And then over here, we'll sort of go a little bit smaller so I can get a line of trees or something between the hillside street and all of this industry. Now, as soon as I hit play, we're going to have a problem. I guarantee we're going to have a problem, and it's going to be related to our small coal power plants, because if we go and have a look, our electricity availability is about to be, it's going to be challenged. We are producing 28.2 megawatts of power. We are consuming 26.62, and that is going to increase as these new factories get connected to the grid. Now, I have seen a couple of comments throughout the series mentioning that it's kind of weird and sort of surprising that this small coal power plant can do as much as it's doing. That's because even though it's not been shown necessarily in every episode, every now and then I just increase the budget. But we're at 150% now, which means this thing, we can't throw more money at this problem. And there is the problem. The power station is now overloaded. So we need a better solution to this problem. And what I'm thinking we could do is reconnect this power line to a transformer station, or potentially connect this one. I don't know if that's necessarily what we need to do, but I think just to see if I can get away with it, I'm thinking I might put a little transformer station just here and see if that helps us out. So if I build it right here and I go ahead and connect it to, well, we'll just say this guy, something like that, or even this one, I suppose, could be an option as well. I think we'll do this and this since it looks a bit neater. That might let us, and I think it does let us, import electricity, which is great news. It's just a shame that this entire line of pylons is now kind of useless. So I think by virtue of anarchy, we're going to go ahead and just delete this entire line of pylons since we don't happen to need them anymore. And I don't really want it flashing at me telling me it's disconnected. But that has solved our problem. It's just that if you remember, I mentioned that I really want to make a bunch of money for an idea that I have for this series in the future. Importing electricity is not going to help me make money. We're going to be spending a lot on service trade in the very, very near future. There we go, $494. We are ruined. No, that number is going to get a lot higher because the demand for electricity in Blackwater is going to increase quite considerably. Now, what I would like to do is just have a look through some of these industries and see what we're dealing with. So we have a paper industry, a plastics industry, a beverage industry. Thank you. That should help with quite a few of our problems. Even if it's just the one industry that we have right there making beverages, that is better than, well, it was 0 before. So having one guy making some drinks is totally fine. We can absolutely make that work, even if it is. And it does kind of look like it might genuinely just be the one industry doing it. I'm fine with that. We can 100% use that industry, hopefully, to deal with all or most of the problems that we're seeing. Now, while that's going on, I want to come over here and I want to take out these trees. And with a slight tweak to this space, and with a move to the transformer station, and of course a little alleyway through here as well, we have a bunch more zoning popping up, and now that puts us in a spot where I can put the trees back, because my goal is, like I mentioned, to do something sort of similar to what I did with the little suburb that we built in the last episode. So I'm basically going to just put a couple of little markers around all of these buildings so that I can hopefully get myself a nice little line set up. I might go a little bit further than I'm going actually, so that I can get a nice little line set up for the farms to come back through here, so that we have that nice clean edge around all of my buildings, which was pointed out in the comments of the last episode. That's actually super common in Oregon. I can't remember exactly what the wording was, but it was something about how when farmland is sold, it is typically sold, I believe, in squares or something like that. So it's very common that you will see towns kind of have a very sharp sort of edge in certain places. And that's actually making me think that maybe that's what we're going to do here. Instead of going for these little curved corners, we'll go for something a little bit sharper on all of this. And I might just go a little bit further with this so that we're maybe just going straight across this way. We'll go straight up through here. And I'm just using this to mark out where we're going to be bringing that surface to. So we'll bring this guy out to here. We'll come down to here. And that's basically going to be the outline for the farms. And I think that's going to look pretty solid. For this side, I think what we'll do is come down a little something like this. We'll go to about there, maybe a little bit less. And again, that's where we're just going to be bringing that surface to. As for this road, I'm kind of wondering if I want to do a little something across here. It might not be the worst idea in the world to maybe just go to there, and we'll kind of go this way. We'll kind of go down to about there as well. We can connect those guys together. We can take this out so we don't have that crossing, and I think that'll be okay. I mean, yes, it's going to be connected to this road up here, but that's not really the end of the world. And so with that edge around the farm, I just want to go in for one last little bit of detail, and I just want to use my tree brush to get a little something around this industry. Now, we don't want anarchy for this because I don't want the trees in the buildings, and I do want to get my hands on some of these bushes for the mix because I think that's going to be a little bit better. And I think a slightly smaller brush is going to be the play for this. Now, I will have some tidying up to do, because we are 100% going to end up with a whole bunch of trees on the farmland itself. But I do think having this tree line around our industry just looks a little bit better. And there we go. We have a new industrial space. Nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy. It's not super detailed at all, really. But I want to just see. I haven't checked this yet. I haven't moved down to Blackwater to look at it. Has it solved our issue? It actually has, which is fantastic news. Except for this guy. What are you complaining about? You don't have any rocks? Okay. Well, you're the only person complaining about that. I'm not really too sure. I mean, I know how to fix that problem. I'm not 100% sure that I want to go and build an entire new industry for this. What is this company? What do we got here? Full skill grinding? Okay, well, that could be anything. That could be, Okay. Okay. All right. You know, I don't think we're going to worry too much about full skill grinding. I mean, more power to them. Do what they love. That's fine. We're going to sort of leave them be for a little bit because I've been looking around some of the other services in Blackwater for a while, and I noticed that we still only have the one small police station down here. Now, to their credit, they're doing pretty well. They're doing okay. 6 of 6 vehicles in use is fine. They've arrested 4 out of 10 criminals and put them in the cells. That's great. 111% efficiency. Okay, solid. They're doing a pretty good job. If anything, it seems that the medical service is struggling a little bit more, but I want to get a better police presence in Blackwater. And I was kind of looking at this little corner of our bus road and thinking that maybe that would be a good place for a city police station. And then I noticed that there was a problem. You might be able to spot that problem yourself. It's the arrows. It's the direction that traffic flows into this building. They would be looping around on this road. They would drive to the end of it, turn into the police station, then come out further back and go down the same stretch of road. So what I figure I'm going to do is I am going to build this thing. I'm just gonna bring more of this road back, basically. So we're gonna go back to here. We're gonna bring this over to about there. We're gonna bring it down to about there, and it's gonna loop around on itself, which is totally fine. It's not super efficient to be doing that, and it does look a little bit silly, but at the very least, it means I can put this thing back here. Traffic now has to go onto a dedicated stretch of road to get to it, and then I can sort of move it around a little bit so it sits a bit better on the road as well. And you know, I guess it doesn't look that bad. So let me just go ahead and bring a little pedestrian path around this guy because I think that's going to be a good idea. Although I'm slightly tempted to do a bit of an angle. So I might do this and then bring this guy over so it lines up with that path that I have right there. So right to about that spot should be fine. We will connect down like this and that should be all right. Now, in terms of connecting, ooh, that is not what I'm looking for. What I'm thinking is we're just going to connect these guys together, although they really don't seem to want to behave, which is a little bit odd. Let's go to here and let's just bring this across to about there. And does that now work? It absolutely does. We'll take out this hedge and now people can walk from, well, all the way down there to all the way down here, which, I mean, they can sort of already do, but this gives me a bit of space around this police department to play with, and that's kind of what I was looking for. Speaking of which, it has got an upgrade, which is a helipad. I don't know if we need a helipad. It is $17,500 per month. We can absolutely afford it. I just don't know that Blackwater needs one. Although in saying that, having a little helipad right on the water, admittedly in front of all these houses, they're not going to be happy about it, but I think it's going to look cool, and for now, I'm going to go for the cool factor because apparently that's what's important to me. I really don't think the people of Blackwater are going to be thrilled about that decision, but they'll manage. They'll be okay, I'm sure. At least I hope. Now, I would like to see if I can get a little bit of extra parking in here. I'm not 100% sure that I'm actually going to be able to, but I definitely want to see if this is something we can do. So I'm going to bring this over and I want to see if my parking lot alleyway, it absolutely will fill that space, and it looks like it'll kind of fill that space as well. And that's not too bad. I mean, I probably could just use one of the pre-built parking lots, but I'm now that I think about it, a pre-built parking lot might look better than those rounded ends on that thing. Let's have a very cheeky little look. We have the modest parking lot there. I know there's a wide parking lot. That's probably a little bit too much. The tiny parking lot, honestly, is pretty solid. I could get 2 of those alongside this. The very large, definitely not. But the long parking lot absolutely does fit in here. So I'm going to place it right about here with a roughly equal amounts of grass on either side, which I think is fantastic. And then what I'm going to also do is bring this path in here. So it kind of looks like you could walk from the parking lot to the path that surrounds the building. You probably can't do that, but it's going to look like you can. And that's sort of what we're going for. We're going to fake it until we make it on that one. Also going to just adjust this surface so it stops overextending, and that I think looks relatively solid. I do want to grab these nodes though, because I noticed they're dipping down a little bit. So grab all of these guys and level to that height. And we might have to do a little bit of a key wall around here, which isn't the end of the world. We've had to do it pretty much everywhere else on this entire section of path. So doing it here as well isn't particularly surprising. And then I guess if we hit this with a bit of a smoothing brush, we are going to have a little bit of a dip there, but that's not really the end of the world either. I think that looks just fine. It looks like I've barely done anything to the bank of the river, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. The other bit of good news with all this grass in here is I can do a nice amount of detailing. So this little police department, I mean, it's going to be in a good location and it's going to look really cool as well. So let's, first off, let the simulation run so we can see if vehicles can get out of this thing without too much hassle, which, I mean, thus far, none of them are going anywhere. 17 vehicles available. There goes the helicopter. That's kind of cool. Wasn't really expecting it to go that quickly, but not bad. Not going to complain about that. Still no vehicles heading out though, so you know what? Let's just start working on some surfaces for this thing. You know, for a simple little build that took 5 minutes to put together, I love how this has turned out. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. It's such a cool little expansion around from what we did in the previous episode. I'm actually really happy with this. I was having some serious doubts about it, but yeah, I think this fills in the space just absolutely perfectly. And you know, that kind of has me thinking that we should probably look to fill in a bit more of this space in here. Now, I do want to mention that this industry, we've talked about it a few times, at some point it's going away, or at least it's going to be moved, because as we've discovered, we do need a decent industrial presence in or near Blackwater. We need it on the map is what we need. Now, this isn't really where I want industry. This is just a holdover, a leftover, whatever we want to call it, from when we started this city. Same with a lot of this space, really. This water tower, I think it's kind of cool having it in the middle there, but I'm wondering if we can replace it with something that looks more interesting, that sort of symbolizes the water tower. Maybe we turn it into a park. I don't really know. And while we're on that topic, I mean, the same could be said for a lot of these houses. These lower density houses in what should be a slightly higher density space, again, a little bit of a holdover from when we started the city. Now, that's not to say that I'm going to replace all of these with apartment buildings, but I do think a decent few of these should probably be bought up and at least turned into row houses. And I'm thinking that down this way, a lot of these guys, not these ones here, these are maybe okay, but this set, for example, could probably be turned into commercial premises. But before we do that, I think I'm going to focus on this space up here. So with that in mind, let me get started with a little bit. I don't want to use EU. We're going to use NA mixed housing, and we're going to build ourselves a little something right about here. We'll go for something about this size. We'll go for something a little bit smaller, and we'll go for something a little bit wider. Well, that's actually not going to work at all. Let's go for this right about here, so that we're kind of playing with the heights of the buildings. We're still sticking with, you know, the slightly higher rise buildings on this side. This is slightly taller than some of the buildings we would have as well. And then for the rest of this, I'm kind of thinking that I want to just do some North American low density businesses in here. I don't think we have any high density businesses anywhere on this map right now, and I'm kind of okay with that. I don't really mind that. So I think we're going to go for a little bit of lower density business here. I don't want to go right up to the water either. We're just going to fill in this space And then for over here, we can probably fill out this or extend this road a little bit so that it goes a little bit closer to the water. It gives us some space to play with in there. I think we could bring an alleyway across here so we have some zoning available there as well. And that's making me very tempted to bring... I did leave this gap deliberately because I was thinking I might want to bring a road across here. I don't know for sure that I want to do that, but if I did, I could do some tiny parking lots behind these commercial buildings, and I do think that would look cool. So I think I think that's what I'm gonna do. So a little bit of terrain editing again. I'm trying my best to not go crazy doing this, but I mean, look, I like to think that I like to think I'm behaving a little bit. I'm not being super unrealistic with my terrain editing. Like, I'm not getting rid of the river completely. I'm just extending the banks of the river just a teeny tiny little bit. That's all. That's all I'm doing. Just a teeny tiny little bit. And then we'll do this. We probably don't need to do it up there. And I can hit that with a smoothing brush. And I think that'll be okay. I want to believe that that's okay. I want to believe that that's something that's within the realm of possibility for Blackwater to do. I think that looks fine. And I think it'll look cool as well, because I can go in here with my little tiny parking lot and we can just absolutely line that alleyway with a bunch of little tiny parking lots. And of course they don't fit perfectly. That's fine. I'm not super worried about it. I'm even tempted to push them together to get rid of the grass, but I don't know. I also don't know that putting parking lots right on the water is necessarily the best use of that space. I'm slightly tempted to... Oh, you know what? We're not doing the parking lots. Never mind. We're not doing the parking lots. We're gonna put some commercial buildings back there because it's just gonna look that little bit better. I would like this guy though to not be taking up all of that space. I kind of want to, you know what? Let me get a bit, let me change this up again. Let me change this up again. Let me do something kind of fun here. Let's get some slightly larger buildings in some of these spaces. We'll kind of vary up the sizes a little bit and see what we can do. So we'll get a couple of those guys. That should be fine. I mean, that one's facing the water, which is great. That one's facing that way. That's okay. You're facing that way as well. Water, alleyway. This one, there we go. Can I get something small there? I absolutely can. We'll go for this guy right about here as well. And I'm kind of wondering if we can go for maybe a little hint of symmetry here, or just do this and this. Yeah, that looks fine. That gives us a bit more commercial in that space, and I think looks pretty good. This back here can be turned into another little walkable space, which is good as well. So now you're going to be able to walk from the waterfront housing all the way down there to this little commercial space, and I think that's cool. And I suppose that little waterfront development could look something like this with another little tiny parking lot in it. Now, I have to confess that I have once again bulldozed everything that we had in this space because I had another idea that I thought might make a little bit more sense. And that idea was that maybe I should put some housing in here so it's kind of looking out at the water. Now, in saying that, it is looking across the water at an industrial site, so it's not exactly going to be prime real estate for that particular reason. But I was also thinking that maybe we play with the UK medium density housing because I know there are some nice apartment buildings in that particular category. So we're going to see if that's a thing that we can get away with. And then on this side of things, I'm just going to go in with a bunch of low density business. And I think we'll stick with North American low density business just to sort of play around a little bit. We'll do something like this. Then we'll do something like this just to fill up those spaces. And I'm going to leave this gap in here very deliberately because, again, I can go in with something like a little pedestrian path and just make it a bit of a walkable space if that's a thing that people happen to want to do, if they happen to want to walk around there. Now, annoyingly, this building doesn't seem to want to pop up, so we might have to wait for these guys to build. I'm not 100% sure that they're all going to be the same building anyway, so I might have to use the eyedropper to go ahead and grab one of them and then paste it into all spots, because I think this could be another little sort of apartment development, kind of similar to what went on down there just a lot less fancy because it's next to an industrial site and across the river from an industrial site. So it's a similar idea, just the execution leaves a little bit more to be desired. And then while that's building, I want to come in here and I do want to play around. Ooh, oh, they look perfect. Yeah, that is the exact type of apartment building I was hoping for. That's 100% what I was hoping for. Okay, that's gonna be that's gonna be solid. Now, what I would like to do is just come in here with another little bit of mixed use. I think we'll go North American mixed use. We're gonna do something like this. I'm gonna do something like this. I'm gonna do something like this. I want some teeny tiny little mixed use buildings in here. Not really looking for anything all that tall. I just want to border these ones, and I want to sort of surround those parking lots as well. Now, when it comes to the rest of this space, I'm kind of wondering what exactly I'm gonna do with it. I could do more stuff with alleyways. If I did this, I could put an alleyway through the middle and do some tiny parking lots at the back there, but then we have the same problem as we have on this side. So not 100% sure I want to do that. Although I suppose we could have a little bit of fun with this and see how it goes. If I did this, we can get some slightly taller buildings right about there, which I'm not against doing, although they might be a bit too tall for what I'm going for. But I think we'll give this a shot and see how it plays out. We're just going to do another alleyway that runs from here to there. We'll have it run into here, and in that space, just a bunch of tiny parking lots. And you know what? I've got to say, I think this little development has worked out pretty well. I love this. I really do love the little parking lots surrounded by all of the, you know, mixed use buildings. And then over here, I don't love the repetition with the commercial buildings, but I do think having the commercial buildings is super important. There is just, well, there's a slight problem, and that's that these guys are complaining about ground pollution, which, to be fair, makes sense. So I'm going to clear out this industry and I'm going to replace it with some office zoning, which we could go French, but I don't really think we want to be doing that in this space. I don't think it makes too much sense. And then for in here, I think we'll do sort of the same thing. I think we'll put a few offices, just maybe two about there. We'll go for about there. We'll do something, well, we'll just leave it at that. And then for in this space, we can kind of do the same thing. We can actually get the offices to go underneath the highway here. So I'm going to clear this industry out completely. And I'm just going to fill this space with office zoning as well, because we should end up, and we do end up, with a bunch of offices going underneath the regional road. And I think that looks kind of cool. And that's hopefully going to cheer these guys up a little bit. I've also just noticed how huge these office buildings are, which is totally fine by me. Not really too worried about that. I would like to fill this space, but I would imagine it's going to be a little bit before we can do that. And so I think what I'm going to do just before we leave this area for, well, I say leave this area. I want to fill this space as well. But before we kind of leave this little bit, I think I'm just going to put a little bit of a, well, actually, I'm going to flatten this out first. Not because I want to do a huge amount of landscaping, but because I want to just have a little border of sorts around these buildings so that they have a nice solid foundation. I care about the structural integrity of the buildings. That is all. That's why I'm doing what I do. Basically, I'm just going to do that. I don't know if it makes sense. I don't know if anyone's going to use this. In fact, that would probably make more sense if I did something like that, but I don't think I'm good. Well, maybe I will do that. Maybe we will just run that straight down to there. I think that makes a lot more sense than what I was about to do. Yeah, we're going to do that, and then I'm going to put myself a little bit of a key wall on this guy and then smooth it out again. That's all. That's all I'm doing. You know, I've got to say, other than the ground pollution and the death and the fire, everything's going pretty good here. It's, there's a little bit more death going on than I thought there was, but other than all of that, other than all the bad things that would make a place like this bad, I actually really like how this space has kind of turned out. I'm actually thinking that I might even go so far as to lock all of these buildings so that they don't change appearance if and when they happen to level up, because honestly, I don't want them to. I like them looking like this. I mean, it's kind of the point. They're not supposed to be super high-end apartments. They are supposed to be apartments, but I mean, they have a riverside view and all, and that's the type of thing that's going to be, that's the selling point, right? You wake up, you open your balcony. Does it have a balcony? Do they have balcony? Yeah, they got balconies. You open your balcony door, you look out, you've got the beautiful sound of nature with the birds chirping in the trees and the sound of water flowing by, and just ignore what's on the other side. Just ignore all of that. Don't worry about it. Now, while we're on the topic of filling in different parts of Blackwater and filling in different parts of this chunk of land that we're building on, I want to fill in this space up here, and I want to do two things with it. First off, I want to expand roads, and second off, I do want to put a cemetery up here, because we did just have a little mini death wave going on. It didn't seem to really stick, and it might have just been a glitch in the system, but I want to make sure that we're doing okay, because as it stands at the moment, if we have a look, we do only have one death care facility. It is this one crematorium, and again, to their credit, they're doing fine, but they're getting there a little bit. Now, we could upgrade this place. We could give it another incinerator, which will increase the speed at which remains can be processed. We can give them 5 more hearses, although only 1 is in use right now. And we could give them a refrigerator expansion, which will allow storing more deceased before cremation, which, I mean, all of that's fine, but this thing is all the way over here. We have all of this space over here that needs death care coverage as well. So my thinking is that I'm going to do something kind of dramatic. I don't know if I was going to say drastic. I went for dramatic. I'm going to de-zone the entirety of roads. And I'm pretty sure at some point I mentioned that I really wasn't a huge fan of the waterfront buildings that we've got in here. I really don't know what they are. I think they look a little bit weird just with the colorful rooftops when compared to everything else we have going on. So I'm going to replace them with the UK medium density semi-detached housing, which is, admittedly, it is a medium density set of buildings that we're going to be dealing with here, but they don't necessarily look medium density. They are going to look essentially very similar to the Valentine district that we built in the last episode. And I do think they're going to look a little bit better than what we have going on out here at the moment. So we just want to replace basically everything that we have here. I'm kind of hoping it's going to work as nicely as Valentine did, where we're just sort of going to have the buildings kind of just work. But I also have to go in here and manually bulldoze all of this, which people are not going to be happy about. I know this isn't necessarily realistic either, but to be fair, I don't think, at least I really hope I didn't at any point say that this series was going for realism. I'm going for a combination of I'm playing Cities Skylines II, and also I want things to look a certain way. It's a weird combo. Some days we have episodes that are more focused on just building and playing the game, and some days we have episodes where we're focused a bit more on making things look cool. Today is probably a little bit more towards the just playing the game side of things, but you can never really be too sure. Now, what I think I'm going to do in here is extend this all a little bit. I'd like to get some distances. 176 for this. So let's do another 176 right here. Let's do 176 right here, and let's go across, because I want to see if the cemetery is going to fit, and it just about does, which is fantastic news. So it is going to live right there. I kind of want to see if I can get rid of that surface around it, though. Can I get a different one? No. Okay, we might have to replace that. I don't know if I like the sandy surface. I'm also kind of thinking that I might just give this its own little space. It feels a little bit thrown in there, and I don't know if I like that. All right, so slight change of plan. The semi-detached houses really didn't work in this sort of layout, so we've gone for another district full of the detached UK-style houses, which admittedly do still have a variety of colorful rooftops, but I do think they look better than what we had here before. I've also sort of dotted some semi-detached houses in here, and some of them have decided to rotate a little bit, which I'd really prefer they didn't. Would you spin around to, there we go. That's going to be much better. This guy as well. I need you to rotate to be on this road down here, if you wouldn't mind. I know I could just, I could just copy and paste the one next to it, but I've been doing this because just rapidly deleting buildings is oddly therapeutic, and apparently this one doesn't want to behave, so I'm going to have to copy the one next to it. Basically, I just want them facing that way. If they're going to be set up like this, they are going to face the same direction because it just looks a little bit better. And like I said, there are some semi-detached houses dotted throughout, so we have a little bit of variety going on here. We also have a couple of semi-detached houses down here, which have some pretty good sized backyards on them, which is absolutely fantastic. We have a couple getting built up this way as well. And basically this is kind of just what I'm going for this district. I'm not too sure how I feel about this road just existing like this. I'm not sure I'm a major fan of that. So I think I might actually change that up a little bit. And I was kind of thinking of just doing this. I think just giving it another connection to the regional road is probably a good shout, given how big of a district roads now is. Although that is going to mess up my zoning a little bit here, so I might need to play around with maybe another little semi-detached project there. Yeah, I'm not too sure how well that's going to behave, unfortunately. Let's do the same thing here. We'll bulldoze a little something. We'll take you out and you out. That'll give us a pair of semi-detached houses there, but I'm not sure that there is a 3x3 little single house here. No. Okay, we're gonna have to figure that out. It's not really the end of the world if we have a gap. I would just like to not have a gap there if that's an option, which I guess doing that is, yeah, I guess that's how we're gonna just break up that entire line of houses. I'm also breaking my rule of not usually letting people build on these bits of road, but I think it'll be fine. Anyway, what I'd like to do at this point is come into our cemetery and see what else we've got. We do have the temple, which can go around the sides. It is going to provide well-being, which is all right. We have the columbarium, which can go around the sides as well. This is going to give us more storage capacity. I don't think we're going to be building that. And we have the mausoleum as well. Similar story. It is storage capacity. Now, I'm not against the idea of putting something like the mausoleum down here. I think it could look interesting, especially if I got rid of some of the extra parts around it. But I think for now, this will be just fine. And then these spaces down here, I kind of want to look and see if I can get just some kind of little park down here. I'm kind of thinking a large playground. Is it wrong of me to put a large playground there? I feel like it's not, because it is a neighborhood, you know? And then on the other side, a dog park. So we kind of have that little bit of symmetry going on. And then around all of this, I just want to surround it in trees. I want to absolutely build, if I've never built a dense forest before, this is going to be a properly dense forest around this. So we want to grab all of these different types of bushes, and I'm just going to go in here. No anarchy, because we just need it to not be on roads. And it's just going to be as dense as I can possibly get it. And you know, I think that looks all right. I don't mind the little parks in front of the cemetery. I also changed up the parking because I figure that looks a little bit better as well. But I think this looks all right. I think it kind of fills in the space in a nice, respectful way. I haven't filled out the forests over here yet because I don't actually own that tile and it felt like cheating to go out there and use anarchy to do it. Although in saying that, I don't know why that bothers me so much. I really do pick and choose when and where not to use anarchy, don't I? Because I did use anarchy to make these trees that bit more dense. I used anarchy to get trees in between those roads. I don't know why going out to put a forest outside of my available tiles is suddenly off limits, but apparently it is. Now, this entire episode we've been talking about and working on filling in, different little spaces that we have left over. We still need to deal with this. We've built out the industry. I don't actually know what to put in this space, so I want to throw that out to you. What should this little space be? Because it's largely going to be one of the last major developments of Blackwater itself. Now, I do have some ideas for things across this bridge and for this little bit of space up here, so it's not the last thing we're building in Blackwater. And obviously, once this industry's gone, I want to expand a little suburb out into this space as well, so it's really not the last thing we're building here, but I don't know what this should be. So let me know in the comments below what you think should go into this space, and I will do my best to make that happen at some point in the not too distant future. I am thinking, though, it might be sort of interesting to have some of these roads connect together. So if we go, I don't know, let's say, maybe we want to do 88, just since we've used 88 meters for a lot of things so far. So if we go 88 meters on both sides here, that was 80. It's not quite what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the 88 right there. If we do that and connect these guys together, that might give us, it gives us a nice connection between these spaces. So let's maybe do a little bit of that. So you go down to right about, can I get that guideline off so this lines up perfectly? There we go. So we have that little connection. I don't know if I want to keep that as a curved road. We might want to change that up because we have largely stayed away from curves where possible, although we have one here, and we have a couple of others, but for the most part, I've tried staying away from them because they're an absolute nightmare to deal with. So we'll see if that curved road stays. But I do think the idea, at the very least, of why can I not get rid of these trees? Why? Anarchy, can I just get rid of all these? Anarchy, again, it just picks and chooses when it wants to work with the trees. There we go. I think that'll be a decent connection to have, though. It will probably mean that traffic is maybe going to come down here to get into Blackwater, but that might not be the worst thing in the world. And yeah, let me know in the comments below what this space should be. I genuinely have no idea at the moment, so every little helps in that regard. We'll try and come up with something cool to put out here. Although I am thinking that maybe we should continue this road straight through as well. So we'll do that at the very least. But the rest of it is entirely up to you. Let me know in the comments below what you're thinking for this little space. Anyway, with all of that said and done, I think we can go ahead and leave it there for today. I'm quite happy with what we've managed to build, and I did see a comment on the last episode that was maybe mentioning that we could wrap up another episode or two with these little drive-by camera things that you can do by just clicking on a vehicle, following it, and then turning off all of the HUD. I like this. It's kind of a cool way to see the city, and like I said in the last episode, I haven't really done this before, so it's kind of a cool perspective on everything that we have going on. And I mean, literally, I've never really seen this district, the waterfront housing district, from this angle before. Those buildings are a lot taller than they look. And those smokestacks in the distance, yeah, they might need to go. I might need to use the better bulldozer to remove those. I'm really not sure about those. The power plant as well. I mean, all of it really is pretty imposing, but the smokestacks especially are kind of a problem. Oh, that's skylines, maybe not the word for that, but it's really cool seeing all those buildings down there. It's also kind of cool getting a look at our new neighborhood, even though there's a tree in the middle of the road. That's not supposed to be there. We'll just delete that real quick. Yeah, that was That's not supposed to be there. And if we switch to one of the pink buses, we can get a little bit of a look at our police station, which I think looks absolutely fantastic. That fountain in front of it, such a nice little touch. Really, really pleased with that. Anyway, like I said, we're going to leave it there for today. Let me know in the comments below what you think we should be building in that remaining space up by the roads suburb. I've got no idea. Hopefully you've got a decent idea ruin that we can put together for Blackwater, but that is gonna do us. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It has been an absolute pleasure as always, and as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.